Welcome back to the Couch Gaming Podcast, where we hate p***. Let's talk about this nonsense. We've been wanting to talk about. Well, I've been wanting to talk about The Sound of Freedom for a while, ever since the movie came out. Unfortunately, we've been delayed many times for various reasons about talking about this. But let's get to the intro, then we'll talk about and why they suck. My name is Jacob Sizemore. Across from me is Mr. Fox.
I'm surprised you remembered my name.
I almost didn't. I'm not gonna lie. I called you your last name because I'm struggling with your first name. Is Nathan?
Okay.
Nathan?
Yes.
Thank God. Okay.
Wow.
Is Michael behind me? I'm feeling the sense of the force. Oh, jeez. Oh, gosh. Okay.
Speaking of
Speaking of. Yeah.
You have to keep it PC.
oh my, we're gonna get shadow
we
banned
just
regardless.
mentioned in the first seconds of the podcast. This isn't PC.
You will have to censor that, or we're gonna get shadow banned.
You can get censored if we say the word.
YouTube doesn't like when you use that term.
It's a technical.
so-
Wait, if we use the term map, are we going to get shadow banned?
I have no idea. I'd hope so, but YouTube leans into a certain political.
That's so stupid.
direction called
Anyway, the
left.
person who invented minor attracted person instead of which generally I think is more insulting term, it should be because it's a.
It just sounds
All right,
disturbing.
We'll see what Kid Knocker does.
gonna say,
And
pretty good
across from Mr. Fox is Mr. Quay, Liam Quay.
You. My name is Liam, and I love this movie. And I think that it is absurd that there are people that genuinely hate this movie on the base that they think that it's linked to QAnon. They're like, this movie is linked to far-right extremism.
So real quick, we'll get to that later.
We'll
What
get
we're
to
going to be
that.
talking,
Just
what we're going to be talking about in this podcast is first we want to review the movie Sound of Freedom. Generally speaking, as a Christian, I've seen many faith-based movies or faith-based companies create faith-based movies, and most of them, the vast majority of them, are awful. God's Not Dead being a horrendous example. That is a awful, terrible movie, and it is cringy to watch as a Christian. But we saw Sound of Freedom. It's very well done, in my opinion. Very well shot, very well acted. The story, the only thing where I think the movie struggles is at the end, but generally speaking, I think it's an incredibly well done movie. And we'll talk about the history of this movie's struggles with Hollywood and the financial boom of this movie in a second. But let's just get our normal thoughts of the movie out right away. Nathan, what did you think of this movie? Since you saw it more recently. I saw it when it came out. You saw it more recently.
I just saw it 2 days ago.
Yeah.
So I didn't really think that I was going to be able to watch it because I thought, oh, it's out of theaters. Okay, maybe it's going to be streamed or it's going to be released on DVD soon. But I've never seen a movie that has been so suppressed. It's insane. Usually, usually when a movie comes out, you have like a couple days before it goes to streaming or goes to some platform where you can watch it and pay for it there. Mm-hmm. It's nowhere. It's literally nowhere. Like it is insane. If you can't see it in theaters right now, you have to pre-order a disc from this Christian website. So it is so weird. I'm so glad I got to see it, but I really like it. I don't understand why people would hate on it so much, unless it hits too close to home in terms of their sexuality. So, yeah.
This movie really speaks to me.
All that work, all of that hard, grueling work to get those kids to us.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's what Hollywood's saying.
This is going to get us canceled.
We're already canceled right now.
If you haven't already gotten canceled, if we already haven't gotten canceled by now.
Badge of honor.
Liam, what's up?
Oh, I was about to say, my opinion on the film is I thought it was pretty good. There are some moments of acting that aren't the best in the film.
Yeah.
But the film as a whole manages to really be raw and realistic. It tends to show how gruesome these crimes are without showing you the crimes.
Yeah.
Without being detailed. They really do allow you to kind of get the picture of what's going on without trying to be overly graphic about it. That's what I really appreciate about the film. I also appreciate that there's a film that's like this, that's actually sharing this message, because I think it's a very important message to get out.
100%. Yeah, again, on the filmmaking aspect, again, this is not your generic based message first, story later, acting later, execution later. No, this movie is executed very, very well. And again, like what you said, it doesn't need to go on that shock factor of showing you every gruesome detail. You know exactly what's going on in most scenes. This movie is rated PG-13, but it really gets away with a lot of disgusting details that the movie doesn't show you. One of the most impactful scenes of this movie is where, and I didn't know this going in, one of the main characters, who is based on a real life guy, he arrests a and then he has to watch all of the footage that the has been watching, and how they show this is they show a close-up of his eye and a tear going down his eye, and they hold on that shot for a very long time. And as an audience member, you know exactly what he's looking at, and you know exactly how it's affecting him, and it breaks your soul. Like, looking at that shot, like, it's amazing visual storytelling. You know exactly what's happening without seeing the disgusting detail that I don't want to see. No one in the audience wants to see that, even for shock value. But they executed that extremely well and with incredible restraint. And I thought that was probably the best way they could have showed that type of material that definitely makes you like, yeah, I know what's happening. It makes you squirm in your seat. This movie does really make you squirm many times without, again, being abruptly disgusting.
Yeah, it kind of goes against that whole age-old like film rule of show don't tell. Sometimes you genuinely, it's more how do I say, impactful not to show something.
Yes.
It's more impactful to kind of leave things to the imagination, or to basically infer that something happens sometimes. And this movie really does kind of get that message through. What I want to start out with this film in particular is I want to talk about the intro to the film.
Oh yeah.
And I want to talk about the ending of the film.
Yeah.
Because I loved the subtle difference between the intro and the ending.
Yep.
But I loved how it also matched as well. And I think that it's a very engaging hook for the most part. You have the little girl playing the drum as the camera zooms in. And then basically the film ends. She's turned around. She's playing it, and it zooms out. We end exactly where we started, but the message that you're getting is completely different.
Yeah.
And I think that was done very well from a storytelling perspective.
It's very well done. Again, with a lot of with a lot of Christian films, like, the visual filmmaking on display is never impressive in any way, shape, or form. But you know that, like, filmmakers genuinely really cared about the story, and they cared about the execution, because if this movie had the same message but crappy filmmaking, I don't think this nearly would have gotten as much praise as it would have. Because we all agree that child trafficking is a horrible, disgusting sin against humanity. But, like, if you want to see a movie about it, but it just produced terribly, or a well-placed production with care and intrigue in every single scene. Yeah, go ahead, Nathan.
Well, apparently not.
Apparently not.
Yeah, apparently not.
Apparently not.
We do not have a consensus on hating, pedos, hating these people that are trafficking children.
Yeah,
you go ahead.
I agree. So I do want to talk about that. I want to get into the reception of the film in just a bit, but I do want to get into, like, the pre-production elements of this film, or the fact that this film was apparently made 5 years ago, and it failed to find a distribution company, or a company that would send it out worldwide.
Disney bought the rights and they shelved it.
Disney
they shelved
and
it.
Fox had the rights to it, actually,
Exactly.
and they completely shelved it and just didn't release it. It eventually came in the hands of Angel Studios, which is they're the ones that made The Chosen. Like, they're basically an internet studio production company, because that's how they were founded. So this little studio that pretty much no one knows about gets their hands on a product that big companies had and refused to show, and they shared that message. But what's great is that this film still did well, despite the fact that there isn't a big studio name attached to it.
Exactly. And there is a good actor attached to this. Jim Caviezel? Yeah, that's his name. I forgot his name. He's not. I wouldn't say he's a super mainstream actor.
Caviezel was the main character.
Oh,
He also plays Jesus in The Passion of the Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty much like mostly what he's known for. Essentially just playing Jesus. So I wouldn't call him like a mainstream actor or anything, but he does have some credibility to his name because he has been in like bigger movies before. And so he was one of the guys like spearheading this project and really going out of his way to like preach this message. Again, we'll get into this in a minute, but this should be a very universal message. This should be a very universal thing that everyone can agree on. We'll talk about that in a bit, about apparently why that's not the case, but again, I give this movie slack for that because it doesn't detract from the movie, and it doesn't feel preachy. It doesn't feel like a normal Christian-based movie where they're essentially just spouting God every single second. Again, I agree with the message, but you can make a better film without having it feel super, super preachy. Again, the same thing with Hollywood and like any like woke agenda with this stuff.
Yeah, even when the Christian like parts are brought up, it's done well within the context of the story.
Sure.
Because the main character is a Christian. Like the line, God's children aren't for sale. That didn't feel super preachy and in your face about it. It was just one line that passed and it was done. And that was in line with his character. And honestly, it's an impactful line as well. It gets the point across.
that hit hard.
It hit hard.
Especially like in the moment, like seeing that movie, it is like, ooh, that's especially seeing what this guy just went through. Which, by the way, the opening like 30 minutes of this movie is essentially just how the child police trafficking works, how the child trafficking movement works, and like how take these kids, sell these kids, make videos of these kids, and sell to other people, and how the people who work in this industry as the police find these guys and essentially deliver these guys. And again, what Jim Caviezel, the actor, and the real life guy, I don't remember his real name, had to do in real life was essentially get one of these pretend like he is a have conversations for months and months and months and months with this guy and see disgusting, horrendous things just to get this guy to essentially reveal the destination of one kid that he's trafficking. And to do that, like, I'm sure that would break your absolute soul. To pretend to be another and to see this stuff, to be involved in this stuff. It's disgusting, but he did it for a good reason.
Yeah, that's extremely common for law enforcement to do that, especially in the Air Force. I'm not saying, people are running rampant throughout the military, but it does happen sometimes where you have a commander come out and it turns out he's diddling kids on base. So it happens, and you kind of have to play into that role a little bit to kind of get him to have some rapport with you.
100%.
The more you can get the criminal to trust you and think that you're one of them, he's going to start being honest. He's going to slip up, and that's how you get true justice.
Yeah.
See, another thing about this film that I really appreciate is just, and this kind of plays into the realism element of it. I like that there's no mustache twirling villain in this movie. How the people that are bad people seem very normal, which kind of reinforces the idea that this is a very common thing, and that bad people in real life don't appear to be bad people. They appear to be just like you or me, normal people in public. I mean, that opening with that girl that brings him into the modeling agency, she doesn't seem like someone that would kids through sex trafficking. But that to me kind of just reinforces that this is not fiction.
Yeah.
This is something that actually happens.
Yeah.
With the exception of like the at the beginning, who very much looks like a
Yeah, very much looks like a pedophile.
That was too obvious.
Mustache, glasses, and everything.
Yeah.
Like I saw that, I was like, okay.
That's
Everyone
a
knows.
100%.
Yeah, that's a
100%. That's one of those guys where you be walking down the street and your kid is going to look at him and is like, Daddy, he wants me. Like, oh, that's one of those guys.
one of those guys.
And it's like, how do you know? I know, 100%.
So, like, with the exception of that, almost everyone seems very normal appearance wise, not necessarily behavior wise, but appearance wise, they seem very normal people.
I will say I wasn't a huge fan of the ending. I felt it tried to lean into the theatrics a little bit because from the beginning to like almost the end to where that actual strike mission took place on the island where they caught all the pedophiles on that island and rescued all those kids. That was a real life event. And they showed that footage at the end, and everything that was building up to that I thought was handled amazingly. But the ending, it turns into like a Solid Snake military style mission, which apparently also that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So they fantasized that up. So that becomes a little bit Hollywoodized, and that was a little too much for me.
That was completely like artistic liberty right there.
Right.
Which I'm kind of torn on it. There's one aspect of me that doesn't really mind people adding a bit of artistic their own artistic touch to something, even if it didn't necessarily happen. But it's weird because you go from this story that's very grounded and very real to this story that ultimately just becomes like a Hollywood piece in the last 30 minutes of the film. Not to a very high extent, but it's still drastically like contrasts with the rest of the film.
It does, and that's what I want to highlight, contrast with it. I don't think it's bad in any way, shape, or form. I don't think the execution is bad, but I do think there is a huge, stark difference between that and the rest of the film, because the rest of the film is based on real-life events, a real person, and a real event. They show all this footage at the end. A lot of the historical facts of it are very much true. Again, I get the artistic license. Again, Social Network. Most of that stuff, vast majority of that stuff, pretty much most of everything you see did not happen, but it's within the character of Mark Zuckerberg, and it's still a really good film. So you can take artistic license in a real life scenario and make it right. But this also is a very sensitive topic, and so I feel like more artistic license in those scenarios kind of means a little more in this film, if that makes sense.
Like when you see that ending, and it's just different enough to kind of be like, oh, this isn't as grounded as the rest of the film. It kind of pulls you out of the film for a bit.
Yeah.
So I kind of didn't really have my focus toward the end because I thought all the important stuff was pretty much over with, and the ending just kind of felt like filler to make the movie go on a little bit longer.
It was filler, and I think they was trying to like add some like ending action or ending like boss fight, if that made sense. So that was the more Hollywoodized aspect of the film. Again, I don't think it's bad. I think it was just a little bit tacked on.
Yeah.
But overall, the movie itself, I think, is a very well executed. I think it's a really, really good movie, and definitely earns the respect that the amount of money that it got, and the fact that it's still going. It's still out there.
So glad that this movie was like a box office
huge
success. I am
success.
so happy, in spite of all of the pedophiles that hated the film trying to.
Now, I want to be very, very clear when we talk about this. We are, to a degree, being very serious with the fact that a lot of people didn't like this movie for very much the wrong reasons. And again, it really does go to the fact that this movie was shelved for a very, very long time. And you could say that, again, the fact that Disney owned the rights, like, that doesn't really seem like a company that would produce this type of movie. So I want to give them a little slack on that. However, there are many studios that just passed on this movie.
I think Fox had the rights to it at one point.
Yeah, Fox had the rights.
And this is definitely a film that Fox would release.
100%.
So the fact that they shelved it.
Yeah, it's a very strange film it's a very strange reason to shelve these, because every studio passed on this film.
I wouldn't be surprised that Hollywood producers shelved a film about pedophilia, all right?
Right.
That just makes 100%
No one is surprised about that.
That just makes sense.
Yeah,
It's because they're pedophiles. The fact that it took 5 years to get this message out is in some way tragic. And the fact that many people are just now being exposed to the realities of what sex trafficking is actually like through a simple piece of media is astonishing in many ways. And it shows what art can actually do. It can have an impact. It can teach a message. It can open people's eyes to things.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very important thing for our culture in general that tends to be a little bit more blindsided and kind of ignorant of the things around them.
Very much. I like, again, I do know. I don't like it when movies get super, super preachy. But when it's the point of the movie, you know exactly what you're getting into going in. Like, you know that this movie deals with child trafficking and pedophilia, so you know that going in. You know that the central theme of it is going to be against that. So that's fine. I get that going in. It's going to be the same thing with a bunch of other Hollywood movies. Like, I can like or dislike a movie based on the themes. But again, a movie can get too preachy. Again, I do think that this movie does it very well. I'm not speaking out against the movie for being having themes and having a main agenda to it, because it's a very important agenda for people to be aware of.
It's not like God's Not Dead, where the teacher basically reveals at the end where he's like, I don't believe in God because my mom died. And I was like, that's such a crap motivation.
That's a balls. That's a balls motivation.
I was like, come on, bro. Like,
so yeah, let's talk about the fact that this movie was, again, rejected by every single studio, picked up by a Christian studio. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird, the rejection of this movie. It's weird. And it's weird, like, the stark contrast in so many people who staunchly are against this movie. It's like, I get the point of just not wanting to release the movie because it has such impactful themes. That's a strong theme. It's a strong thing to release in theaters. But to be staunchly against this movie for the very wrong reasons, when this movie was released, there was a lot of controversy about QAnon. Now, let's talk about this for a second. I didn't know what QAnon was.
nobody knows.
I don't think
nobody knows who QAnon is. It's just a buzzword.
I didn't know what QAnon was at all.
Like, I know what QAnon is, but like, they're so irrelevant that well, it's basically like an afterthought.
Right. To be clear, I didn't know what QAnon was when the controversy was coming out, because all I saw on the media was this righteous move. This, like, a lot of people like CNN, a bunch of other networks were saying, like, this movie's just a conspiracy movie about QAnon. Like, what the frick is QAnon?
Yeah.
And I didn't, like, what's up?
I looked up and did a little research and, studied the history of what QAnon means, like, physically, what it is objectively. Because,
Right.
a lot of the times when you're looking at, like, say we're in our position where we don't know anything about QAnon and we want to go on YouTube and look at all this, and you have CNN, NBC, Vice News, like all these news outlets that are obviously biased. It is no secret that they hate conservative values. So when you look at QAnon conspiracy theories and the fact that it's linked to right-wing ideologies, of course they're going to talk bad about it. So you can't really get an objective view about what it is.
Right.
So it started on 4chan, if that tells you anything. So apparently it was an anonymous user, Anon, half of anonymous. That's where that part came from. And he had a Q-level security clearance in the government. So he was basically like a whistleblower, but he didn't want to be exposed. And so it was just about him, called QAnon, him exposing the secrets of the CIA and all that. But it was... I do agree with the fact that it definitely is conspiratorial. It's like a conspiracy theory because of some of the theories that he released in cryptic messages just sound absurd. Like Hillary Clinton was assassinated 5 years ago. Like crazy shenanigans like that. Like Kim Jong-un is a plant in the Korean government from the CIA. Like crazy stuff.
Right.
Like that obviously have no substantiating evidence whatsoever.
Right.
So that part I understand that if they want to try and link it to that, there is actual evidence that child trafficking is happening. There is no basis for saying that there's
100%.
no evidence of this is a problem. That is just ridiculous.
Oh, 100% there's evidence.
That's what's so absurd about it, is the fact that people are trying to link a very known common crime to a conspiracy theory. Like, there's nothing... We know child trafficking is an issue that actually happens. So the idea that you can even make that connection is downright absurd.
Yeah.
We recently discovered there's a whole island full of people who are trafficking children to
One
it.
of lot
the
of politicians
few
are there.
conspiracy theories that ended up being correct.
Yeah, it is correct.
Was one surrounding sex trafficking.
It's weird how that came out and say, like, there is no like elites or Hollywood conspiracy theory of trafficking children. We literally just found Epstein's Island recently.
There's a big log of politicians that have been there.
Exactly.
Huge.
You know the list of people that have been there. Freaking Tom Hanks has been to that
Our video is
island.
just canceled because we're talking about this.
Exactly. No.
We're done.
I don't agree. Like, I've listened to QAnon. I've done my research about QAnon. I don't agree with many things about QAnon. And it is very conspiratorial. There are many things I don't agree with and I don't understand about it. But I will say that the fact that you're linking QAnon to this movie, which is not about QAnon. It's about a very real life event that happened in a real person's life. And for what he did, they show, again, so many things about this movie are very historically accurate. They showed the footage at the end of the movie. And again, like, you do your research on this movie, most of this stuff is very accurate to what happened. They're not talking about QAnon. They're talking about a very real life event. And to go out and say, like, this movie is conspiratorial, number one, you're wrong on the very basis of the fact that, number one, this movie is based on real life events. But number two, it's a very strange thing to say, to like defend.
Yeah, that's the
accusations against this movie. Like, that's the hill you're going to die on. You're going to say that this is the movie that's wrong. This is the movie that's getting everything wrong. Really? That's the movie. That's where you're going to die on.
I think that people forget that just because there happens to be people with politics behind the film, that there happens to be people behind the film with politics you may not necessarily like, doesn't mean that you just have to bash the movie itself.
No, and again, there are many liberal.
If that was the case, I should hate every single movie that's ever been released in Hollywood.
Exactly,
because most films released in Hollywood have people behind it with politics I don't like.
Right.
But I don't bash them if they make a great film with a good message. They made a great film with a good message. The fact that you're so desperate to hate on something because the people behind it may not necessarily politically agree with you says a lot more about you than it says about the film itself.
Very much. And this movie should not be a political divide. Yes, the people who made this film are conservative at their core. However, this should not be a conservative movie, if that makes sense. This should be a very universal film that everyone should get behind and understand that this is a disgusting, terrible thing that we should all universally say, yes, we agree. This is disgusting. Don't bring your politics into this in any way, shape, or form. Don't say, like, this is a conservative, conspiratorial theory. It's not. It's a real life thing, and to bring your politics into this is a very strange thing. I want to bring this up, and Liam, you know exactly what I'm going to be talking about. We released a clip online as of recent. It was a joking clip. All it was a joke. Liam said, like, is it ever appropriate to put someone into a box? And I said, yeah, pedophiles, as a joke. It was a joke. And then Charles said, like, yeah, the box we should put them into is a coffin.
It should be
as a very basic joke against pedophiles. So there was a stupid human being who commented, probably a pedophile, who commented online. This was his whole comment. We all know that pedophiles and child abuse are bad. The Catholic Church being among the biggest offenders. That's fair. But enough with your white knight bullshit. I'm just quoting. I don't usually curse in this podcast, but I'm quoting a guy, so bear with me. What's disturbing in recent trends of Republicans calling everyone they disagree with groomers and pedos. It's an open call to violence against anyone they don't like. The problem with that comment is we never brought politics into it. We said that pedophiles were bad. All we said that pedophiles need to be in a coffin, which I feel like is a universal thing. The problem with this movie and the people that are against it is that they bring their politics into it, and that should not be the case at all. This should be a very universal thing that conservatives and liberals should all agree on, that this is a disgusting, horrible thing.
That tells me one of two things when you have a comment like that, or when you have people that disagree with the message. Now, if you want to criticize the movie from a filmmaking perspective, there are some elements where I can agree on you. Some of it is kind of, some of the line delivery is kind of cringy. I'm not going to lie. There's lines in there where I'm like if you just thought the film was a bad film, okay, that's one thing. But if you're just going to immediately assume that it is right-wing propaganda to make a film about pedophilia, that tells me one of two things. Either you're guilty of the things that you're upset about, or you're insistent on just purposely trying to keep a divide because you want there to be a divide.
Yeah.
You thrive off the idea that you are different than them, you are divided from them, and that you are better than them.
And definitely, like, again, a large problem is the political divide in this country. It's a shame that there's no middle ground anywhere at all, that any again, it's the main, like, issue with just creating the two political parties, and there could be no middle ground between this. Like, my political party says this thing, I have to agree with it, and I'm not even going to debate it with the other team. There is no middle ground.
Murdering pedophiles should be the middle ground.
It should be the middle ground. It should
I'm
be a
just
middle
saying.
ground. Now, it's one thing.
Killing pedophiles should no. Death sentence for pedophiles. Okay. Like,
Oh, no, I'm not fighting you on this. I'm not fighting you on this at all. Like, I'll go down the list of ways that you can kill a pedophile. Weed whacker. Let's bring that into the game.
even if you don't support like the legal death penalty, most people after watching this movie kind of understand why people would want pedophiles to die.
Oh my gosh, yeah, you leave this movie
Like-
angry. You leave
like-
it so angry
like,
and disgusted.
Even if you disagree with having any like legal action to kill pedophiles, after watching this movie, you're like, I understand why people want to kill pedophiles.
Exactly,
Like,
exactly. I understand why you would want to push this guy off a building and watch him fall into a pit of piranhas and watch his corpse die.
That was Nathan's first comment to me when after he watched the film.
Oh yeah, I gave Liam a call after he was like, "Oh, how was the movie? I heard you just watched." I'm like, "Yeah, that makes me want to go hunt down pedophiles."
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Dude, I was shedding a tear in the theater when this happened, and there was a lady like sitting next to me who like she was crying too. She leaned over to me and was like, "You all right?" And I checked at her and was like, "Yeah, I'm good. How about you?" And she said, "I am distraught." And I was like, "Yep, I feel you."
Hey, that's a great way to. I have the most amazing idea.
Oh, what's up?
It should be if I was dictator, right? So hear me out. Everyone would be legally mandated to watch this movie, Sound of Freedom. And if you do not cry in the movie theater, you're probably a pedophile. So,
Sit a pedophile sitting in the theater. This movie hits too close to home. It's like, get that guy.
they're just sitting there like this, like.
Yeah, like I'm
If you're sitting blank face in the theater, it is like, ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Take him down.
See, I'm half joking. I mean, what else am I supposed to assume of you when you're so like adamant about it?
Yeah, I mean, there is a possibility. Again, with such the political divide in this country, you can go into this movie understanding like if you are on the left, it's like, oh, this is just a right wing movie. I don't want to see it. I can understand from your perspective how that would be a turnoff. I don't want to see a movie that's purely political. That's not a fun time for me at the theaters. But again, it's not a political movie. I really don't believe that this is a right-wing movie. I think that this is a movie with a very clear and obvious message that this stuff happens. It still happens to this day, and it happens all around you. And it is a vile, disgusting thing that we should all agree. It's gross.
The most political thing in this movie is a comment about God.
Yeah.
That's like only right wing because most
And
Christians are right wing. It's not even intrinsically right wing. It's just that most Christians happen to be right wing. That is like the only really political thing in this film.
But even then,
it's just a passing line. It's not even really political. Like in general, the movie is literally just about protecting children.
Yeah. And that's all it should be. Yeah. No, I don't think it's a conspiracy to say that this stuff happens, because obviously it does happen. I don't think that it's a conspiracy to say that there are elites who traffic children, because we know that happened because of the whole Epstein incident. What the
We were having some technical difficulties there. We are back to the podcast. Jacob,
Liam started
please continue your
aggressively
point.
making out with Nathan. It was very
Don't act
steamy.
like you don't like to watch.
We had to wipe off the cameras because there was so much steam.
I basically just broke his jaw.
And his hips.
Yeah. Face holes were collided at Mach fuck. That's what was going on. Yeah.
We are exceeding the maximum speed limits. Oh gosh, this is so bad.
Man. All
Sound
right.
barrier breaking
such
in
a
10.
So back to pedophiles.
Oh yeah, back to
Back to talking about fucking
nowhere on earth will you ever hear. Anyway, back to pedophilia.
Except back
This
to
is we're
pedophile
so getting
movie.
shadow banned. We're so getting shadow banned.
So if Hollywood elites are I've really seen that metrics wise, the Hollywood elites are the only ones that seem to have an issue with this film. Because if you look at the Rotten Tomatoes score,
Duh.
yeah, Rotten Tomatoes is Rotten Tomatoes gave it a
wow.
score of like
Hollywood elites having a problem with a movie about saving children from pedophiles.
So-
I wonder why.
So let's be clear on this aspect. I have heard from many, 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 many sources that Hollywood definitely has an agenda. In Hollywood, you have to think a very certain way. I don't think that is a controversial thing to say. You have to think a certain way when you're in Hollywood. So I do think if Hollywood does support, if there are people in Hollywood who do support a more conservative ideology, that they just can't outright say it unless you just have the backing. Like
James Woods.
Denzel Washington. I think Denzel Washington is a pretty outspoken believer, and so is Chris Pratt. But like, if you're like a very
Mark
basic,
Wahlberg.
yeah, Mark Wahlberg is also. He's actually quitting acting. Very
Really?
soon. He is quitting acting. I am very impressed. He's really like focused on his religion as of recent.
Bro, the idea that one of the lead characters of Ted is a Christian is
I know.
hilarious to me.
He was in Ted, and he is like an outspoken Christian who went on like a major studio and had like the Lent stuff on his head.
Well, yeah, he was he played golf with Jonathan Rumi.
Yeah,
Is it Rumi?
I have no idea.
Rumi?
To be
Rumi?
completely honest, I have no idea who you're talking about.
Jesus from The Chosen.
Jonathan Rumi? Oh, that guy.
That guy, yes, he was actually playing golf with him.
Yeah, I don't know that guy's name in real life. I have watched The Chosen.
Jonathan Rumi.
Okay,
Rumi.
that's a terrible last name.
He also played. He also
Rumi.
played. He also played that.
Move your mic a little
he
closer to
also
your
played
face.
that.
It's not. It has to be pointed at you.
Lonnie Frisbee in the Jesus Revolution. You know that.
Oh, the hippie movie.
Well, yeah.
I don't want to see
You know
that.
that guy Lonnie Frisbee was actually like a raging homosexual.
I did not know. Oh no, you did tell me this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like he would like have sex with dudes on Saturday and preach on Sunday.
Hey, he got his priorities straight.
That's a schedule
He
right
has a
there.
schedule right there. I gotta have sex with Sam on Saturday, and then go preach the gospel on Sunday.
I have my New
You
York
already see
orgy
the
on
progressive
Tuesdays.
Christians going like, "Well, that's because Jesus would have accepted." I don't know. I'm not sure about
I
that.
don't know. I don't know. What if he missed it on Saturday and he has to get it in like right before church?
He was like, next day was just
Oh.
confession.
Lord have mercy. Gets in the confession booth, confesses to himself.
Confesses to himself.
He'll reschedule
Like
for after
he
church.
switches the booth. He goes in the confession booth and then immediately goes into the other booth. It's such a stupid segment. Of the
He'll reschedule it for after church.
We are getting
Exactly.
way off. We are getting way off topic.
comes into like the walks into the podium like just super sweaty.
he's like, hey, so today we're going to talk about why God loves all of you.
oh, I gotta button back up his shirt.
He's like, hold on, real fast.
Hold on, I gotta fix this.
Bro, dude looks goofy. Like the real guy looks goofy as hell.
Does look goofy.
Have you seen the real photo of that guy?
Yeah, it
Like that?
looks weird. He
He's got
does
that-
look like a hippie.
He's got like a rectangular beard that's like thin.
He looks exactly like how non-Christians describe Jesus as like a hippie, because I feel like non-Christians like Jesus was a cool dude. Like even if you don't believe in God, like Jesus was a pretty cool dude, and they describe him as like some kind of like hippie, like who's just like sitting on the road. It's like preach the word of God, man. It's like Jesus would be like, they describe Jesus as someone who would be a guy who very, very unironically says man at the end of everything. Like, how's
Hey
it going,
man, you got any scripture, man?
Have you gotten scripture, man? It's like,
man.
bro, let me talk to you about a Lord and Savior, man.
Bro, our Father who art in heaven, man. Come on.
It recites the Nicene Creed with
That is
man
not
at the
Nicene
end.
Creed.
The nice.
That's the Lord's Prayer, my
The
friend.
Lord. No, I wasn't saying like that's the Nicene Creed. I'm actually saying like the actual
He
Nicene
says,
Creed.
he's like, bro, I believe in one God, Yah.
Yeah.
Yahweh, dude.
Yah is in Yahweh, brother.
Let me show you Yahweh, man.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Oh, man.
No, have you like genuinely speaking, like all the other denominations of churches, like it is interesting to go to other churches and like see like if you've ever been to a progressive church, I would highly recommend it.
I can't.
Because it is so interesting the way that they really try and upscale like the cool factor, but it is so cringy. It is so cringy.
Yeah, they like one of my favorite scenes from King of the Hill is where they have like the rock and roll Christian bands. It's like,
Oh, man.
you're not making Christianity better. You're just making rock and roll worse.
Exactly.
Facts.
Like to be clear, like even like the super like right wing churches that are like you got the screaming pastor.
How all
It's like, did
non-denominations.
you know that the Lord is coming for you? And then he like puts his hand on people and they're like shivering into the spot and like, oh gosh, what's happening?
Bro.
This is cringy.
Hey, my priest just looks like a wizard, so you know.
Your priest looks like like a Jewish Gandalf. Actually, what is your? Oh, he's Italian though.
He's a Romanian.
Oh, that's very different.
He's a Romanian.
Really?
Right.
I don't know
howdy.
things.
So back on the subject of this film.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say we got like way off topic.
I'm
there.
sorry. We do that
Back
a
to
lot.
pedophilia. We're gonna just
do
be a
that a
graphic
lot.
on the screen like da-da-da-da-da, like the Batman logo. It's like to the Batmobile, da-da-da-da-da, back to pedophilia. Da-da-da-da-da. This is such a weird topic.
To the pedo cave.
Yeah. To the island. Oh man, this is bad. This is not good.
So speaking of Hollywood elites,
I'm
right?
I'm surprised I didn't come up with the worst joke in this segment.
Is that the worst joke we've had so far? I feel like we've had worse
To
jokes.
the Pedo Island, and then you have the Batman symbol pop up. It's like da da da.
So
So you just said Batman's a pedophile. It's because you just said like to the pedophile. Okay, the Batman symbol pops up. Batman doesn't like. Wait. Hold up. No. Hold up.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Even the Joker pops up. Is like, well, okay, I'm the Joker, but I'm not a pedophile.
He's like, huh. Jeffrey.
I may blow up banks.
Millions of people, but I'm not a pedophile.
I may blow up banks, but I don't blow up
Maybe a
kids'
terrorist.
pussies.
Have you seen like the cartoon Joker, like even where the Joker's based, where he hates the IRS too, where he has to like pay his tax
Yes,
to the
I have
IRS?
seen that.
There was a
Look, I'm
comic-
a criminal, but I'm not that criminal.
well, there was actually a comic book crossover of Marvel and DC where a Red Skull,
way.
Red Skull was trying to work with the Joker, and the Joker was like, "You're a Nazi? Listen, I may be a psychopath, but I'm an American psychopath."
Oh my gosh!
Base.
And I don't know if that's based or just cringy as fuck.
When the Joker was based.
100%.
Man.
We are not talking about the Sound of Freedom.
I'm so sorry. I'm
Oh
back to Hollywood elites.
Yeah, so with Hollywood elites, I just have one question.
Yes.
So like like to any of you to like the one person that might watch this when the Illuminati's spying on us. So what tax bracket do you have to get in before you start wanting to fuck kids? So this seems to be a rich people dilemma. So I'm really confused because we all are, I wouldn't say poor, but close to it. We're like poor adjacent. So and the last thing we want to think about is fucking kids when we have bills to pay. So like what do we have to do?
What are you trying to say?
I'm not trying to dig a grave for myself. Hear me out.
Well, that's exactly what you're doing.
Like how rich, how fucking nasty rich do you have to be to where you are so bored that you have to think about fucking kids?
Well,
Like, what?
I mean,
Why?
they overlooked Weinstein, so
Weinstein.
yeah, they overlooked that. So, like, didn't Meryl Streep go on stage and call like him God? And then it was a very underlining joke, or they were very aware that he was essentially like date raping all of the actresses that he hired, and like it was they joked about it long before he was arrested. So it was like an underlying thing. Even like the Kevin Spacey thing. What is it? Family Guy made a joke about that like long before the Kevin Spacey thing came out, and like Stewie ran into the mall. As a joke, he ran out completely naked and said, like, quick, I've escaped from Kevin Spacey's basement.
Oh
They made that joke before he got arrested. So everyone was like an
Yes.
underlying like joke, but they kind of knew about it.
Well, there's a
It's the same
joke like
thing
that. Yeah, there's a joke like that right now with Joe Biden's basement.
Oh yeah, Joe Biden's basement. Yeah.
Wait, that is so good. That's my Wi-Fi name. That's my Wi-Fi network name.
Joe Biden's basement.
Yeah, so no one uses my Wi-Fi.
Oh man.
Well,
It works.
that's it.
Dang, that's
Shit, I don't even use my Wi-Fi. Yeah. That's how
gosh.
impactful it is.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not saying that everyone in Hollywood's a pedophile. I'm not even saying if you hate the Sound of Freedom that you're a pedophile. But I am saying that there's an underlying understanding that Hollywood definitely protects their own even when it's morally corrupt. Because they called Harvey Weinstein a god for so many years, and they protected him for so many years, even though when it was a very well-known thing. Because like people have come out and said like we knew. People said like they knew. They 100% knew. So don't like No, we're good. I restarted it. Good to see you. All right. So yeah, I'm not going to jump to the conclusion that you're a pedophile for not liking the movie. I am saying it's a very strange stance to just argue against the movie.
yeah. Like here's the thing. If you just genuinely thought the film wasn't very well made, that's one thing. I mean, hating the message doesn't really make sense. That should be a message everyone can get behind. deliberately making it political is just stupid. And I don't honestly think that people are making it political because they're pedophiles, although let's just say, like, there are some people that support MAPS, and that
Pretty
tends
sus.
to be on
Oh,
one
yeah.
side of the aisle. But we won't get into that. I think it's more so that politics has taken over almost every part of our life, and the second someone sees that someone on the left sees that someone who doesn't necessarily agree with their opinions made a film, any idea that the message goes out the window completely, and it just becomes about politics to them. And that, to me, it is just kind of disheartening that you can't open your mind to actually just watching a film because that has a really important message just because people behind happen to have an opinion you don't agree with.
There are political movies that I don't agree with that I think are great movies. I don't have to agree with the politics of a movie to agree that it is a good, well-executed movie. And there are plenty of movies in the most recent years that I don't agree with politically that I will see. But again, I find it very frustrating that the pedophilia thing, as in general, is a right wing. It seems to be a right wing passionate thing. And like in the comment where he was saying like everyone on the right side, like calling everyone they don't like pedos. No, we're calling pedos. We're not calling people on the left pedos. We're calling pedos. We're very specific about that.
Yeah,
It shouldn't it
pedophiles
really
are
should.
pedophiles.
Yeah,
It's
exactly. It really makes me angry. It genuinely does make me angry that pedophilia is a right wing issue because it shouldn't be. It should be a universal. This is disgusting. And again, I am not saying because I have many friends who are on the opposite side of the political aisle than I am, who agree with that. Who obviously agree with that sentiment because it is a very disgusting thing. It's just very strange to me that just to make that political.
And
It's a very weird
They're
thing.
the same tax bracket as you, right?
Yeah,
Or
100%.
close to it. Point made.
I don't really know if I should be agreeing with this right now because of the rant that you
He's
just
circling
went on.
everything around, like, listen. I'm just saying, certain it's
My
only
guy's
the-
just trying to who in Hollywood is going to listen to this?
Listen.
You were talking to the camera like if anyone in Hollywood is listening, nobody is listening.
My
to this.
FBI agent.
Oh, that's
FBI. No,
We're gonna hear a knock at the door. FBI, open up. It's like, what's happening? You're talking negatively about pedophiles. Like, come in. Like, we want to join. Like, cool. Let's talk. about this.
Yeah. Hop on the pod.
To be fair, I know leftists that like this film and that think the message is important to get by. I know people. I've seen that some people tend to lean to the left because they were sex trafficking victims before. I don't necessarily get how that particularly leans you to one political side or the other, but that tend to be a motivation for some people that were in that situation. So, it's not to say that it's everyone on the left, but there is a certain group of people on the left that are so desperate to just be apart from anything that is even remotely right wing. Becomes
it's a think tank. Yeah.
It becomes a core part of their identity.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if they will hate on things that genuinely are good to maintain their political identity.
Yeah. It is a think tank mentality, and I don't want to even just say that it's a liberal thing as well. I've definitely been very very much becoming very anti-political as of recent, or very apolitical, just because the idea of it with just agreeing with your side makes me angry. Now, I'm not saying that my ideology isn't on one side. I very much am on one side of the political aisle because my ideology definitely aligns with this side of the political aisle. But to just always be on one side of the aisle and just agree with everybody on this side, I think is such a stupid move. And there are stupid things on both sides of the aisle that frustrate the hell out of me.
Yeah, you have people that basically put things online where they think Trump is a prophet, or there are people that pray to Trump.
It's so stupid. The guys are
stupid.
Trump is a prophecy. Dude, Trump is a crackhead.
Dude,
He's
Trump,
crazy.
Trump is a very funny guy who happens
He's
to become
very funny.
president.
You can even if you don't agree with him, you cannot deny he's hilarious.
He is hilarious. Trump is a case of I liked his policies, I hate parts of his personality.
He's not a good person. You cannot cannot convince me that Trump is a good person.
I think he's an arrogant person.
Very arrogant.
Whether he's good or bad, that's kind of like I'm in the middle of that. But that's besides the point. Like Trump is not a prophet. Trump is not.
No, he has his own political agenda too.
Yes.
Like we talked about this a long time ago. Trump switched political parties because he knew that this would get him a more advantage. He switched to the right wing party. He was on the left, and he definitely changed his politics. Now, whether he agrees with everything on the right side of the aisle, genuinely, I don't know. I don't know Trump as a person, so hard to say. But again, there are things that I like about him. There are things I dislike about him. But again, I can say the same thing with many people on the left side of the aisle. But again, my politics, I'm not one of those guys that is like, oh, I'm not a political person. I definitely agree with one side of the political spectrum way more than the other side.
Yeah.
But I'm not just going to blindly agree with everything because you can't just go on life without that and just live your life in a think tank. You have to be able to form those thoughts on your own and think through things. Otherwise, you're just living in a group set mentality, and you're like those freaking climate change protesters on the road, blocking traffic. Get out of the way.
Yeah,
gosh.
like my idea. I will say how I used to embody a very conservative personality type, and I still do to an extent because my politics are still very conservative. However, there is definitely left-wing points of view that I've come to agree with as well, like healthcare, for example. I think paying absurd amounts of money for healthcare is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And there's
if you're having a heart attack and you're wondering, do I go to the hospital and pay all the money, or do I just die? Because that costs less.
Dying sounds cheaper, right? I don't think you should have to be put in a position. It's like, well, the hospital has to take care of you if. Well, yeah, but you have to be dying. I think that you should at least be allowed to go to the hospital and get taken care of before you start dying.
Yeah.
At least when you maybe a day before you start having. So if you had an infection and you're like, this could be a bigger issue, maybe you should at least be able to pay later.
Yeah. There's not a famous saying, but there's a saying that my parents taught me when I was a kid. It's like if you're young and you're young conservative, you don't have a heart. Like liberals have more and I think that a lot of this is fake, but they have a lot of where they come from is compassion. They definitely come from a more sympathetic element, at least the things that they agree with. But it is genuinely understandable where their position comes from. But if you're not a conservative when you get older, then you're an idiot, because conservatives generally think about the policies. They don't generally think about the human element, which is missing in much of their politics, and it's a freaking shame. But they focus on what works, generally speaking.
I like how we were criticizing people making this political, and now we're talking about politics.
That's freaking true. Yeah,
it's irony. It's irony. At its
We're
best.
hypocrites. We're hypocrites.
We're hypocrites. What can we say?
We're no better.
But we do.
But we're not pedophiles.
I do want to get back onto the subject of the film. So, does anyone else have any closing statements about the film in general?
Yeah, I want to extend an olive branch out to the people who are critical of this film, because a lot of the times what they've been told on the internet is that the QAnon conspiracy theory stuff is just the core belief that there is a deep state and a shadow government that runs things that we don't see.
Yeah.
Now, you can believe that that's not the case, or you can, wholeheartedly believe that the Illuminati runs every aspect of your life, whatever. But the point I want to get at with that is the people who are critical of it usually are based off of that definition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you going into this movie with that mentality of it's a QAnon movie because you heard it on the news, I don't agree with the QAnon mentality at all, but that's not what this movie's about.
Yeah,
it's not what this movie's about at all.
What I was getting at with that is that, did you see, maybe we missed something because we were looking at it from a different lens, a different point of view?
Yeah.
Maybe those people, the one perk of looking at it from a political mindset is you're going to pick it with a fine-tooth comb of just every little thing that you can find. So there might be some details that we might miss in the sense of, if it is a QAnon movie, that would have to imply that there are some big shadow government or secret forces that are controlling a sex trafficking ring. But did we see that? Was there a lot of
in the movie? No.
Systemic power that is dictating these sex slave rings?
It was just
the sex slavery element of it came from private individuals that were
These
doing
are privatized cartels in foreign countries.
These were
Yeah, exactly.
cartel members, basically just trafficking children. That had nothing to do with
Yeah.
anything that is even related to a QAnon.
Now, a lot of these people did have money. They had money to do this. However, like, it's not like it wasn't saying anything about Hollywood. It wasn't saying anything about like even our country mostly. Like, it does say a few things about the country, but like it doesn't go into the conspiratorial aspect at all. It just says that this is a real thing, which it is a real thing, and it's based on real life events that actually freaking happened. So to just go into that with the mentality of this is a QAnon conspiracy movie, you're just believing you're believing a talk show host of some guy that came on a news site and just said like this is just a conspiracy theory for people who believe QAnon. Again, I didn't even know what QAnon was until weeks later after I saw the movie. I didn't know what QAnon was at all.
Here's all I have to say is if you are under the impression that this is linked to QAnon at all, just watch the film. You don't even have to pay for it. If the idea of paying for it is something that's just going to damage your little soul, then see if you can watch it for free. Watch it for free without the political lens and watch the film for what it is.
Yeah.
And if you come out of the film still thinking that there's politics behind it, okay, fair. But if you have not seen the film and you're immediately linking it to politics, shut up.
Yeah, just see the movie.
Shut up.
And even we're not even saying see the movie. We are saying that the underlying theme of this movie shouldn't ever be political, because it's not political. Like, again, being against pedophilia is not and shouldn't be a right-wing issue. It should be a universal thing. Mm-hmm. And again, it's that kind of like funny meme thing. It was like, child trafficking is disgusting, but those people who say but, that's concerning.
Should go to
concerning.
prison immediately.
Yeah,
they're saying that as they're digging their own grave, like physically. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
because we kill
Kind of
pedophiles.
like what you did
Yeah.
with the tax bracket
Yeah.
statement.
yeah, exactly. Like,
Am I wrong?
Can
we stop? What is happening?
There
with
are
this?
poor pedophiles,
Yeah, I mean,
I haven't found them yet.
and that's the note we're ending on.
what pedophiles have you found?
Don't worry
And
about
where
it.
are they? And can we kill them?
Don't worry. That's all done.
No, now I'm more.
All done. Did you guys hear about that pedophile hunter in New Jersey? It was a while back. It was like in the early 2000s. But
Sounds like a TV show,
he
pedophile
went
hunter.
on the sex
Bro,
offender
Are
registry.
we even going to censor the word pedophile at this point?
Yeah,
we have to. We've said it so many times.
a lot of censors.
I'm just
Lot of
saying
censors.
it made me more beneficial for us.
I mean, we didn't.
In the
But
first
I also like being upfront and honest about it, so I kind of don't.
in the
want
first
to.
15 seconds. In the first 15 seconds, censor the pedophile stuff. Because that's the new YouTube algorithm now.
Really?
Yeah, if you say swear words or profanities or even political things that they disagree with, that's what they do when they monitor videos now. They scan the first 15 seconds for these auditory
Okay.
pronouns and
That's a
words.
lot of censoring because we have to. Okay, I'll think about it.
Just for the first 15 seconds.
Sure, I'll do it. Yeah. Okay.
Like, make it obvious what we're saying too, because I still want people to get the point.
Pedophiles.
But
P and
just censor the peh. I think people will get the dough-files part of it.
I was going to say do the opposite.
Oh, just
So from now on-
censor the dough.
So from now on, we're talking
just
about
have
dough
peh.
files.
Anyways, thank
He's
you
in
for
the-
watching another episode of the Couch Gambit podcast. You all have a wonderful night.